Okay, hello everyone. It's Jackie Montefiore here from Sante Medical, and today we're flipping the program. I'm going to be on the other side of the mic talking to the wonderful Tracey McBeath, who really needs no introduction, but it will be nice to hear about her, have her give her side of where she's come at all this from. So, welcome, Tracey.
Thank you. It's very bizarre sitting on the other side, but
Yes, you're probably just itching to get back into your normal driving seat because hopefully I don't butcher this too much, but we'll give it a go. So, this is amazing what you've done so far with the summit. I know we're not at the stage yet where we're live with it, but it's just an incredible feat that you've done. I was watching some of the interviews you did with some of the other guests last night, and I was just thinking to myself, this is just incredible how you've been the driving force to take this forward and actually get in and bring it all together. And that process is still happening as we speak. So well done, and thank you so much. And I think I can join many in thanking you so much for bringing this all together.
oh, thanks, Jackie. That's really nice. I think, when you're driven by so passionately to do something, it's just, it's easy. It's not hard work, even though has been, obviously a challenge in a lot of learning, really with the technology. But thankfully, I have an 18-year-old son who's able to help me when I get stuck. But yeah, I've loved it. Really, really enjoying it.
Very good. Yes, you're lucky you've got that inbuilt IT help desk. So he comes in handy too. And cheap rates, even better. So
very.
So let's go through. Can you just tell us a little bit about you to start us off?
Okay, so yes, I'm sure most of you here know my face, and hopefully you're not sick of me yet, but I'm a health coach in Melbourne. I'm also nearly 47 now, gosh, getting old, and have 5 kids.
Never know.
Five kids, which are my world. And I guess my evolution to this point came from a personal training perspective for about 12 years. And it was sort of, I guess, when I turned 40, everything stopped working for me in terms of what had worked up until that point, with restricting and, cutting out the fats and doing all that stuff and, moving and exercising as much as I could, but it's kind of stopped working. So that led me down the path of finding some answers. And yeah, long story short, that's, I guess once I saw what I saw and how it worked in me with low carb, I just knew that I had to do more to help people see what I'd seen, and that's why I went down the health coaching path. And I love it. It's been it's a continual journey. I don't think we're ever at any imagined destination. It's just every day is just as it comes, and I just embrace it all and enjoy it. And I think with my coaching, I've learned a lot around what generally does hold us back, or mentally keep us stuck from doing maybe some of the things that we want to do with our life. And I think I just try and live by example, and live the life as it comes to me each day. So yeah.
Tracey, can I ask, so you know how you said you were starting to struggle with things around that age of 40. What was it like? Do you remember? I'm just always curious of what piece of information, or was it another person, or what it was exactly that prompted you to look genuinely and give low carb, high fat a genuine try yourself?
It was started with actually a client. I remember really clearly training someone. I was actually pregnant with my 4th child at the time, and my clients just said to me, I think she was asking me about what she should eat, in terms of snacking, because I was still very much in the mindset of, we had to have 6 meals a day, keep our metabolism high, and I was going on about low-fat yogurt and banana and all that sort of stuff. I know. And she said to me, you know, I've just read this book, Sweet Poison. Have you heard of it? Which is David Gillespie's book. And I was like, oh, no, haven't heard of it. Didn't really think much about it. Just sort of put it to the back of my mind. And then, gosh, it may have been, I don't know, I can't really remember how much further down the track, but it was a girlfriend of mine who told me about it again. And, you know, sometimes how we work as human beings is it's not the first time we hear something, but maybe it's the second or the third time that it actually has an impact. And it just came at the right time. I'd had my fourth child. I couldn't lose the weight. I was feeling I had no energy. And, you know, I know having children is hard, and we're always tired getting up to feed kids. And, you know what that's like yourself, Jackie. You are constantly tired. But this was different. It was, you know, it's just like I could never shake it. I just felt like I was just in this just hungover state all the time. And I was really, really unhappy with my weight, and, you know, it was just everything around that. So it sort of came again to me at the right time. And then I just read it, and just, wow, it made so much sense to me. And that was the start. You know, it was the sugar first. We definitely took all that out. I changed my kids. You know, I really removed it pretty much from that day from the household. My husband came on board as well because he was experiencing, you know, weight gain as well. Again, not from, you know, lack of exercise. He's a martial artist. He was fit, training a lot, but lived on big meals of pasta every night and, you know, porridge for breakfast. And that event was starting to catch up on him as well. So started with the sugar, and that definitely helped, but we still felt there was something more. And then it was from that point we found Professor Tim Noakes, and just delved into the science, reading around that, and decided it was more than just the sugar. We had to go the low carb, and just haven't looked back. So that was 7 years ago now, and nearly 7 years ago, and would never, ever, ever, ever go back to eating, you know, all that stuff again.
Oh, no. Yeah, same. And that's so interesting that you say that there's been those few snippets of like things you've heard here and there. And I think that's why this summit is so important, because you don't know who will come across it or where they might be in their journey. And it might not be the thing that sort of really prompts them to dive in, but it could be something like that just triggers in the back of their mind or sits in their memory, and then something else might happen. So it often happens like that series of stories of people who have either used this as a health professional or have looked into the research or have had personal success. So it's really interesting. I think that story, I think a lot can relate to that story. So is that why you'd say, Tracey, why you're passionate about low carb? Is there any other reason, like say above any other diet, if you will?
Look, I think obviously just having experienced it myself, and now being able, you know, in such a lucky job position to help others do it. I've seen it now in so many other predominantly women that I work with, that, you know, it's changed their life as well. But it is because, to me, it is the diet we have evolved as human beings to eat. And, you know, there's no magic, there's no voodoo. It's just, when you look at any species, and you will know this, but, you know, when you look at any species, if you feed it a diet it's not evolved to eat, it gets sick, it generally gets overweight, and all the things that I thought were my fault and that I had to work really, really, really hard to reverse. Now I see were not my fault, and that once I actually understood how food worked in my body, and my body could do its thing and get its hormones in balance, you know, things like weight loss just happened. You know, that was not on me to do that. It was just on me to respect, I suppose, the evolution of humans and just eat in that way. And, you know, I just think why I'm so passionate about the lifestyle part of it is because I just see over the years now that the diet mentality is still very, very strong. No fault of anyone. It's just how we were taught and what we've been taught. But I think when we bring that across into something like this, we miss out on so many of the amazing benefits of what making this a lifestyle can do, and it can just release us from so much of that we think is our fault. It's just not. And that's, I guess, why I'm really passionate about the lifestyle side of it. It's just that, anywhere where there's a potential to make money, I think, we can be brainwashed isn't the right word, but we can be manipulated into spending money when we really don't need to, which we know with the diet industry, it's very, very huge. And I could just see it coming into this space as well. And I just it's just so much more than that. It is a lifestyle, and I think it just can free us up to just, I don't know, live a completely different life, and we no longer have to worry about counting calories or restricting. It just is really as making a choice to eat foods that feel good.
Yes, exactly. And and being able to eat them intuitively. And I was watching some of your talk with Lucy Burns, and she was describing how she just accepted at one point that she just had to feel hungry a pretty decent proportion of the time in order to control weight. And that really resonated with me, because I had come to the same conclusion when trying to follow the dietary guidelines. I just, couldn't eat to satiety and expect to maintain weight while including the refined carbohydrates. But can you tell us, Tracey, a little bit about your talk that you'll be doing for us at the summit?
Yes, so as there are so many amazing women already talking about, I guess, the science and the how-to with the low carb, I've kind of gone and from a different approach, because in my work I've seen that often it's pretty easy to learn what to eat. That's generally not the stumbling block for a lot of people. I think it's more about making the changes when we come up against our brain, and how all these habits that we've innocently created, over our lifetime. And it does, if we don't understand how all that happens and how that works, it can definitely, prevent us, or, really become a blocker to making the changes that we want. So I'm bringing a little bit of that in, but I'm talking in the context really of trying to see stress and anxiety as more of an option to what we think it is. And the reason that is because stress is talked about in every sphere as being very damaging to our health. And I see in my work just a huge level of stress and anxiety within the women, particularly that I work with. It's almost like you said, and what Lucy said about that, you think you have to feel hungry all the time to be in that weight loss, space. With this, it's almost like as part of being a mum or a female these days that we have to just live with this level of anxiety that I think a lot of us think is like a normal now, and, it plays out in our body in a way that can really be detrimental to our health. So I've seen, a lot of women, they will get the diet side of it right, the low carb, they get that, but they're still not getting the results that they want. And, when you delve a little deeper, you see there's some really chronic anxiety and stress issues there. So, that having that happen and be confronted with me, it led me down the path of doing, more learning in what's known as the inside out understanding, or the 3 principles around how we work as human beings. And I think I'm so passionate about that message as well, because it really does help us to see some freedom around things like stress and anxiety and habits and change, just by understanding how our mind can trip us up. So that's kind of my summit talk. So it's a little bit different, but it's still really, really important. I think it was because I was in that position watching everyone choosing their topics, and I wanted to obviously do something that wasn't covered. But it's amazing how many of the presenters have talked about, obviously, yes, food is really important, but we need to look at stress and lifestyle and other factors as well. So that's why I brought that one in.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great and so needed. And I think as like a health professional or a health coach or someone who's working one-on-one with clients or patients, we see this time and time again, and it's hard to ignore it and just be kind of getting back to the physiology and the science of it all the time, because for some people that will only take them so far, and it is so important to consider and address those other factors that could be coming into play, and even being open to looking at it in a different way, I think. So yeah, that sounds very insightful. I'm sure that will be very handy for people who might have had a history of, I've tried low carb and it didn't work. And we hear that sometimes. And that would be definitely one to catch for those people, especially, and if not everyone else. So tell us, Tracey, is low carb sustainable? Is it unsustainable? I had a conversation, I'm just saying it like this because I had a conversation with a specialist the other day about our mutual patient who is starting a very low carb, and he was sort of saying it's unsustainable. I don't think he'll be able to do it in the long term. And we were talking about managing insulin, and I just had a little internal chuckle to myself. So that's why I asked that question in a bit of a weird way. Apologies, that conversation is fresh in my mind. So do you think it's sustainable?
Of course, it's absolutely sustainable. But of course, how we view sustainability is going to come very much back to us as the individual, and our beliefs around what sustainability is, our beliefs around what the low carb diet or lifestyle entails. I mean, if we think of it as a very restrictive diet, then we probably will make up some assumptions that it isn't sustainable. But again, it's interesting because it comes back to a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about in my talk around our relationship with our thinking and our beliefs, and really unpacking a lot of that and seeing that it's probably made up. It's probably, not true what we think about certain things. And I think when we can see that there is some freedom around that, we might be able to let certain things go and new things might come up. So that's how change happens, with that sort of thing. So it's, if someone's going to say to you it's not sustainable, there isn't much you can do to change that person's mind other than I guess understand that that's their choice to think like that. Yeah. That's come from their thinking, and that will probably change, as we all tend to do, when we have an insight or we have something that, like that book for me with David Gillespie, at that time that it was just the right time for me to see it, but it is, it's, to me, it's 100% sustainable. But, as I said, it's going to bring it back to the individual, and we have to make it a really individual journey to make it sustainable for us and our lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people don't realize sometimes how much their belief system or habits or ways that they're used to, like, so for me, for instance, I couldn't imagine getting up in the morning and not having my cereal straight away on getting up and reading the paper. And of course now that is completely different for a whole bunch of reasons. I'm not very rarely hungry first thing in the morning, and if I am, I'll eat. But it's just funny to look back on how different I was then in my 20s, eating my large bowl of Nutri-Grain to fill me up and reading the paper and thinking I could not have breakfast any other way. I can't not have breakfast, you've got to start off the day like that. So it's definitely possible to change that all. And it's about being open and curious and giving it a go.
Absolutely. I mean, being open-minded and curious about it is the only thing you need. I mean, you don't need anything else. You don't need to have a certain IQ. You don't need to have gone to university. You don't need so many things that we think we need to change. It really is just to have an open mind, and simply just by understanding that, which we're just not taught it. It's just when someone pointed this to me, I was like, well, why? How come I've lived 42 years of my life, because it was about 42 when it came into my life, and how come I've lived all that and nobody's told me this before? Because, it isn't just something that we do. We just don't get taught it. And, when we can see just how changeable it is, by seeing how it works, it just will naturally open up to a whole new world of thinking and ideas that you possibly have never seen before. So yeah, very exciting.
Yes. Well, can't wait to hear you talk, Tracey, and the rest of the weekend and the rest of the speakers, of course. So thank you for being on the other side of the mic today. I hope I did okay in the interviewer position.
Do you want to take over? Do you want to do the rest?
Oh, no, you're doing a great job. I'd hate to ruin it on you. No, thank you so much again.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks for being the interviewer today. It was fun.
What's fun? All right, bye.